What is going on, everybody? James with Backlit Keyboard here, and today I want to review the Logitech Combo Touch for the iPad 7 and the iPad 8. Now, they do actually make a model for the iPad Air and the iPad Pro, so if you guys actually have either of those two models, you guys could pick up a Combo Touch case like this, so it isn't limited to just the iPad 7 or the iPad 8. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is actually the build quality. As you can tell, it adds quite a bit of thickness. I would say at least a good maybe 2-3 times the thickness, but it is actually a really nice case. It does add a lot of heft, but as you can tell, it completely surrounds the iPad, so if you were to drop it, you would pretty much have no concerns of your iPad getting broken. But I will say though, I do not mind actually the added heft with the added protection. It definitely is something to get used to. Now the material here, while it looks like a woven fabric kind of design, it feels more like a plasticky design. I do like the feel of it. I do like the look of it as well. So if you just spill anything on the outside of the case here, it'll pretty much wick right off. You would have no problem and your iPad will be safe as long as it's spilled on the outside, obviously not on the inside, because that will be a whole another host of problems. But they do have a spot up here at the top also for your Apple Pencil Generation 1. Now for the iPad Pros, there will just be like a little cutout here at the top for your Generation 2 pencil, where it will just snap on and you can just charge on the side of your iPad, which is also nice as well. They do have a spot here for your volume down and volume up rocker, as well as your power button. They have a cutout here for the mics, the headphone jack, speakers, and the lightning port here on the bottom. Everything else is completely surrounded, which is really nice. Now, as soon as you open it up, your iPad will turn on, and you can just hit the kickstand here. And as you can clearly tell, you have this row of function keys here at the top, which is nice because the Apple Smart Keyboard does not actually have these function keys. So you pretty much have the button that operates like the home button, pretty much similar to here. You have the buttons over here that will increase and decrease the screen brightness. You have a keyboard button over here, so if you're in the search bar and you don't really want to use this, you want to use the keyboard, you just tap that button and your digital keyboard will pop right up. You have the search icon, so if you're on your home screen, instead of swiping down to get the search bar up on the top, you just press that, type in whatever you need. Now, the one feature this keyboard actually does have that I really like is the fact that it is backlit. As you can see here, the light is on, but these two buttons up here actually increase and decrease the brightness of the backlit keyboard, which is a really nice feature to have because not a lot of keyboards for the iPad actually have a backlit keyboard. Now, you also do have the skipping tracks forward and backward, as well as the play and pause button. You can mute with that button there and increase and decrease the volume with these two buttons over here. So this button over here locks and unlocks your iPad. So it pretty much operates similar to the button up over here on the top of the iPad. So even though some of these buttons I don't really use that much. I really don't use the home and the lock button really that much. I usually just choose to unlock it with my thumbprint. But it is actually kind of nice to be able to have these function keys as an option. I know that's something that the Apple Magic Keyboard doesn't have for the iPad Pros. You don't really get these function keys. It's pretty much just like everything below it for the most part. But it is actually a nice little feature to have. Now, the next thing I want to talk about here is actually the kickstand, because I think this kickstand is actually pretty awesome because you could pretty much have it sitting where it is almost at a complete vertical angle to having it almost laying completely flat, which is nice because no matter how you're sitting, you will make sure you always get the right viewing angle. Now let's talk about the trackpad. Now, the one thing I really like about this trackpad is actually the feel of it. It's actually really smooth. It's actually a glass trackpad, which I really wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting it to feel that nice. So this is actually a trackpad that's pretty similar to the trackpad on the Apple Magic Keyboard, which I really do enjoy. Now, the one thing I don't like about this trackpad is the fact that it is a diving board design, which that basically means is up here at the top, you can't really click it because it has a hinge up here on top, and as you go further down, it gets easier and easier to click. But the way I kind of solve that is you could do a tap to click feature, which you could change in the settings and allow it so you could just tap anywhere on here and that'll operate the same as a click. The thing I absolutely love about this trackpad is that I get all the same gestures that I get on my MacBook Air are right here on this trackpad. So I can pretty much just use all the same gestures I use my MacBook by just swiping up with 3 fingers. It will show me everything I'm using right here as far as all my apps go. I can scroll down, I can scroll up, switch between different apps, which is nice. And it's just a nice feature to have. It's nice it completely changes the way I actually use my iPad and being able to kind of click. And just like I said, there's been no lag whatsoever. It's just a nice trackpad. And the great thing about this too is actually if you don't want to use the keyboard, you can easily just detach it. And you can just use it as a media consumption device, or you can just kind of have it just sitting there as well, which is really nice to be able to do that. The fact that you can't really do that with the Apple Magic Keyboard, because as soon as you take it off, the iPad's completely naked. You don't really have any kind of case protecting it, and it's just kind of, well, it's just an unprotected iPad, which that's the one thing I really don't like with the iPad Pro Smart Keyboard from Apple, is just the fact that when you have it on its case and it's sitting like this, the complete edges are unprotected. So if you were to drop it, then you would probably damage the sides and the iPad would probably pop off. But honestly, you don't have that kind of concern with this. I know some of you guys out there might be wondering, how is it on your lap? Now, when it comes to sitting on your lap, it isn't the best experience, but it also isn't the worst either. It kind of sits somewhere in between. Definitely, you will have to have your legs pretty close together. It feels like a pretty cramped space when you're like just have this sitting on your lap, but it is doable. I highly recommend having it on a desk, or honestly, in my personal experience though, when I'm just laying in bed, actually there's no problems actually just laying it on my lap when my legs are completely stretched out and I'm just laying down. But when it comes to sitting down in a chair, this just, I don't know, it isn't. Like I said, you can get the job done, but it isn't the best. And honestly, the other issue I do have with this as well, and I guess it really isn't much of an issue though, because it's really not that big of a deal, but it's just more of like a minor annoyance, is the fact that also you can tell the footprint of this definitely takes up a lot of space. As you can see, it clearly takes up pretty much the length of my entire desk here. Now, granted, I do have a very small desk, but it takes up pretty much the entire desk. It's actually already going over the edge of my desk right here, just having it laying flat. And it takes up pretty much a majority of the desk space by having it here at an angle I'd probably pretty much mostly have it at. But if you were to take something like this and compare it to my MacBook Air, as you can clearly tell, it only takes up this amount of space. And as soon as I open it up, it really doesn't take that much more space than what it is right here. But since this actually requires the kickstand actually takes up a little more space back there. Now, if you were to compare it to the Magic Folio, definitely, even though you're sacrificing that trackpad, the Magic Folio actually definitely takes up a lot less space, which is really nice. And the feel of the keyboard is not bad. I prefer, like I said, I prefer just the feeling of this keyboard here, but as you can clearly tell, it takes up a lot less space. But the only other issue I have with this is the fact that you have to do this weird, like, origami type thing just to get it to close and to get it to open back up. It's just a pain. I really don't care for it, and I think for the price, it's just not something I really enjoy. So as you can see here on the Apple website, they actually have the keyboard here for all three different versions of the iPad. For $150, you guys can pick up the one for the 7 and 8, which is the one that I'm using right now. For $200, you guys can pick up the one for the iPad Pro. And for only $160, you guys can pick up the one for the iPad Air 4. Now, I do actually believe that these actually are a little cheaper on Amazon, so you guys want to pick it up from there. I will leave links down in the description below, so you guys pick one up. So you guys have any one of these three iPads. I definitely highly recommend it if you want to pick up a good, reliable keyboard case and without having to pay the high Apple tax. So anyway, that's been my review of the Logitech Combo Touch for the iPad 7 and the iPad 8. If you guys like this video, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you guys catch more videos in the future. This has been James with Blue Eye Tech. I'll catch you guys next time. Have a good one.